Okay, we've been watching the markets do funky stuff this afternoon. The markets seemed hell bent on hitting an all-time high. They just keep going up, and it beggars belief. It doesn't make sense, but here we are. So, oh well, what can you do? What can you do other than roll with the punches and see what happens and take trading opportunities where they present?
That is true.
Let me just see here. What do I want to put over here? There we go. Oh, how about they? Let's take a belief. It doesn't make sense, but here we are. So welcome to everybody on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. We are here for a thoughtful Thursday with Dr. Jonathan Katz. Here with all our friends in the chat room, as well as, of course, those of you out on YouTube. Appreciate you joining. And in the room, as always, if you have questions for
President Trump now delivering remarks at the Whirlpool plant.
Let me just turn off the Benzinga news. As interesting as it is, it's hard to talk and listen at the same time. At least I haven't mastered that skill. Apparently it can be done. I've never figured it out. So, although they do say that, actually you might know this, Dr. Katz, they do say that multitasking is a myth. That was one of those myths we like to convince ourselves of, that we could actually multitask, when the reality is we're sort of single-threaded beings, and you could do multiple things, but never at full capacity or full effectiveness.
Yeah, when multitasking became very popular, it was a sense, again, like somehow more is better. So if you could do 4 things instead of 1, it means you're more efficient. And then people realized that doing 4 things at a B- level was not as good as doing 1 or 2 at an A or A- level. And quality kind of won out over quantity. So I agree with that.
There you go.
And it really fits to prioritization. That's what people really need to do, is that they start starting to prioritize, not taking 4 things of just the top 4 on the list, but pick the top one, really work on it. And when that's done, go to the next one. And that's really a more efficient way to kind of complete in a high quality way the things that are pertinent and important in your life, trading or not trading.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, anyways, that being said, as I mentioned, if you have questions, and I'd like to thank you, Dr. Katz, while we're waiting for some questions to come. I've seen a couple start to queue up. You did a kind webinar with us this week for our lifetime members, and it was great. Some great interaction, and I thought, some great questions and you actually gave me some good food for thought in your responses, so I appreciated that.
Okay, you're quite welcome. Hopefully it's been helpful for people. I always enjoy doing that and hearing the community questions and the interactions. It helps me get smarter and more knowledgeable on myself as well.
To our earlier, sorry, Kairos is making me laugh here, because to our earlier conversation, he said, I can swear and trade at the same time. Does that count as multitasking?
Yes, good. Always listen. I think the most important there, Cairo, is a sense of humor in trading and in life. It is a very is a quality I value greatly, and actually I think is a quality that successful people have. So I think that is a very good comment, and you should feel free to multitask those 2 all you want.
There you go.
All I would just say is this: just make it short-lived, and then get back to the focus and concentration on what you need to do.
Fair point on that as well, yes. All right, so we had actually some questions here rather than just humorous comments, which I do appreciate. Tyler Trades was saying, how do you have self-awareness while in a trade or about to take a trade rather than just afterwards? Excellent question.
Well, Todd, this is where journaling and tracking your trades is very important on both the technical aspects and the emotional part, because awareness comes from being able to review and see what the emotions are that are kind of common to you during certain kinds of trades. There's usually a pattern. There's usually certain triggers, emotional triggers that happen in trading. And for different people, those emotions can be very different. So I think the journaling and taking note of it and then reviewing it post trading day can actually build up the awareness, because in the moment it's very hard because the technical or strategic part shifts into the emotional part. So that's what I would try to do. Write it down, review it, see what patterns are present, and then kind of become increasingly aware and work on some strategies to manage that when you have that level of awareness off the trading day.
Yeah, I still need to practice that. It's funny because and Tyler, you may notice this as well. Self-awareness feels easier when you're having a good day than when you're having a day where your trades are not going to plan, right? So and I guess that's a typical thing. Like I just know for me, when things start to go bad, it's almost like my brain blanks and I start to react, and then afterwards I'll look back and I'll go, what was I doing? Like I can't even tell you what I was doing because I wasn't thinking clearly because I went into a panic mode, and apparently I don't work as well in under stress as I'd like to think.
But Peter, an interesting thing that I think traders need to keep mindful of, and this is true for athletes as well, sometimes success actually masks our weaknesses. We say we've done well in a trade and we kind of think we have a self-awareness. But the truth is, if we look more deeply, there may have been things that made that only a winner at X level, where it could have been 2X if we had managed the emotions and the awareness even better. So this is often like, if you think about an athletic team, the coach gets the player's ear when they lose a basketball game by 1 point. They may have played poorly. But if they get a tip in at the buzzer and they win the game, a lot of the players are not listening, because even though they may have played poorly, they've won the game. And often people don't look inward when there's a success. So please, the best traders are constantly trying to look at ways to kind of tighten up their process, up their game. And sometimes just because you've had a winning day or winning trade or winning week doesn't mean you can't improve upon that. And that ability to kind of look at your emotional state, psychological variables, and to constantly try to improve them is an important thing, even when you feel objectively you're doing well and performing well.
That is a good point, and I feel I've been so corrected. Just save that. Excellent. All right, guys. We seem to have a lack of questions today. We've already taught them everything we can teach them. There's nothing left to learn.
Okay, so I guess it's a one-on-one session with me and you, Peter.
Oh, well, goodness knows I need it, so that could be very helpful.
Should we start with Peter, the early years?
Yeah, that's right. You lie down on the sofa. Well, doctor, you see, it all
There we go. There we go.
My earliest memory is, anyways.
No, the best thing would be it all started when I read Andrew's book.
When I stayed, right. That's when it all went south. I mean, it all went well for me. No. One of the things that I was sort of eager to ask you about is I've noticed that there's you've talked about this, or so maybe this is a commentary rather than a question, but I had a string of days again for the last week into this week where it had no losers. That's great, right? I didn't have a single losing trade. Love it when that happens. But I've learned now to start to get a little apprehensive of those times because, for instance, today, two things happened. One, I had a trade that almost went against me, and I actually had to fight the impulse to break my rules by holding it longer than I should, because I just couldn't believe I was having a loser. I've been winning for, they're all going to win, right? And it doesn't matter how many times I go through this cycle, it happens again where suddenly I think I'm invincible, and I suddenly can't believe that I have a loser when I know it's part of the game. Fortunately, that trade turned around and went green, but to something you were just saying, I had to remind myself that was lucky. It just happens. It was just one of those things where, it went in my direction, and that's great, but it doesn't mean that, I'm still brilliant and nothing can go wrong. The two trades later, I had a loser, and fortunately I stuck to my rules and I stopped out and, had a max loss trade. No big deal, but it felt inordinately bad, right? It was just a losing trade, but because it was the first one in a while, I put too much focus on it.
Yeah, well, we've talked about before that there is a natural human tendency when things are going well to almost often unconsciously kind of loosen our process, not become as disciplined. And actually, that's when the best traders are really able to kind of really hone in and really increase their focus and concentration. And actually, you're coming from a point of strength then. So it's not really about just wanting to preserve the streak, because that's an outcome-oriented focus. It's really like things are going well. How do I continue to do that? I don't want to fall and become complacent. So let me remind myself to stay as disciplined and focus and concentrating and focus on the process so I continue to make good trading decisions. And it's easier to do that when things are going well if you're aware of it, because actually there's a confidence level that's building. And so you want to use the energy and the positivity of that winning streak at your back and not just become more complacent and feel like any trade you could throw against the wall is going to stick.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. Okay, so the questions are starting to pour in now. So, and we're getting lots of thanks. I appreciate Zen and Ernesto, Air. You're all providing, positive feedback. So thank you. It is nice to hear for all of us. Tyler had a second question here. What are good self-talk practices to fight that inner voice in our head? Sometimes that voice escapes my head and it comes out loud, but it's a good question.
So I would say, Tyler, if you could, for yourself, try to specify what some of your areas of vulnerability are when you're trading. So very often, because that can pertain to then what kind of keywords can be helpful. Good self-talk practices, though, generally can be just to slow yourself down, step back a little, because usually self-talk becomes particularly important when things are not going well. And sometimes people respond to that by over trading, becoming more anxious, and impulsive because you want so much to be on the right side of the scoreboard. You force things or rush things. So I would say to kind of slow down is a general good practice. But if you find a certain pattern that happens for yourself, you may want to develop a couple of keywords that you wanted to put on a Post-it on your computer as a reminder to, so for instance, if all of a sudden when you're having a poor day, you tend to overtrade, you may want to write a couple of keywords to signal yourself to step back, slow down, take a break, things like that, that might kind of help kind of stop that negativity from continuing.
Dr. Katz, I was wondering if you, so one of the things that I started doing, this is, may sound hokey, but because I noticed I would talk out loud mostly when I was angry with myself. So then you'd be, oh, stupid idiot, right? That was dumb. You have those thoughts, and sometimes I verbalize them because you're sitting here alone in a room, and that's what happens. And I realized that's a negative tendency that I want to avoid. But I tried to counteract it by when I was actually doing something well, to compliment myself out loud, and it felt very awkward for a little while, but I actually found that it helped to say, hey, you know what, that was a good job, keep doing more of that. And it seems weird to talk to yourself that way, but I've never figured out why it feels weird to talk to myself positively, but not to talk to myself negatively.
Peter, that is a great point. So for instance, and this is true with traders too, but with athletes, for instance, like with tennis players, having a routine in between points. So the best thing to do, what I tell players, is in between, as soon as a point is over, you do a quick assessment. What went right? What went wrong? That could be, poor footwork, which led to hitting a ball out, or it could be great footwork and hitting a winner. A quick reminder, then resetting, and then focusing on the next point. It's the same thing with trading. We tend to kind of get upset, have a stronger emotional reaction when things go poorly. And so that is important to kind of take a quick review and assessment of what we did wrong so we could correct it. But by all means, one of the great strengths is that we want to kind of build on the things that we do well. So I think if you've made a good trade, not as kind of a grandiose kind of patting yourself on the back so much, but really just to review and take notice of what you did well so that you could continue and replicate that kind of pattern in the future. So I agree wholeheartedly with you. It's not something that people tend to do, but it's an important quality and a useful one.
Yeah, and that's what I found. It actually does work for me to say, like I said, not only, hey, good trade, but let's do more of that. Let's try and do that again. It actually helps me focus on that positive aspects of the process and what I'm looking to try and accomplish in terms of the technical indicators of the trade. So anyways, good.
Yeah, people often think about the absence of the negative, which is important. You want to correct the things that are problematic, but very often people don't think about building upon the things that we already do well, which is equally, if not more important.
Yeah, one of the books I'm reading, they talk about that to say, that school of thought where you should be good at everything. They saying that's malarkey. Forget that. You should really double down on the stuff that you're really good at, and then be self-aware enough to know the stuff you're not good at. But if you're both not good at it and don't enjoy it, figure out how to get someone else to do it, or find another way to accomplish that task, because it's a lot of wasted effort to try and get really good at stuff that you both aren't good at and dislike doing.
And emotionally and psychologically, that is a very good point, because what that means is that we have to be comfortable enough with ourselves to acknowledge that there are areas and things we don't do that well, and just kind of accept that as we're not perfect, and don't make it about somehow there's a shortcoming in our personalities or abilities. Like you said, there are certain trades and certain trading styles and strategies that you may not have a feel for. It doesn't mean that you can't be a really good trader. It's an acknowledgement that you might be good at A, B, and C and not so good at D and E, and just kind of accept it and try to maximize those skills on A, B, and C.
Speaking of multitasking, I've been trading while we're talking here, and I'm taking a partial in AMD. Anyways, so Brian has got the next question. How has everyone, well, this is maybe a question for all, but how has everyone been able to tune out external noises of life and stay focused during trading times? That's a very personal question, but I'm not sure if you have any general advice on how to remain focused, because focus is tough, especially the trading day is long.
The trading day is long, and we're living in a more uncomfortable and uncertain time than any of us have ever experienced. So the first step on this is where people who tend to be very perfectionistic and have incredibly high bars for themselves kind of have a difficult time. You need to really be good to yourself at these times. We also have to manage our expectations. These are times where there are distractions and worries and concerns, health-wise, economically, societally, that could be very distracting. What I would say is, so that's a general rule, but an individual thing I would say is to make sure you spend time off of the trading day, talking through, working through, spending time thinking about some of those other issues, so that you're in a better emotional and mental place to be able to compartmentalize as best you can and focus and concentrate during the trading day. If you don't spend the necessary time tending to other parts of your life or other concerns beside trading off of the trading day, those other concerns are likely to rear their ugly heads, especially during more tense, competitive, difficult times on the trading day. So that would be my suggestion.
So yeah, Jimmy is maybe asking a follow-on, so I'll throw that right here at the bottom if I can expand on that. How can you manage to trade while at work and with the time you have and feel no FOMO when you see an okay setup? Well, this is where now it's getting very difficult to your personal situation. I've got a few of these.
Yeah, listen, trading is very difficult, and I understand the economics of people trying to manage two jobs and trying to trade at the same time. I think you have to make this about not what you're not doing, but trying to do the best you can. And it is very difficult, but trading, because of the potential downside risk, it is very important that you try to focus on your trading at a time where you could give a high level of concentration, even if it is in spurts and short time periods. It's very hard if you're distracted when you're trading It's hard enough for the people who do this full time and are locked in and experienced. So what I would say is if you have another job that you have to do, I would try to, instead of multitasking simultaneously, I would see if there's a point where you could be doing your other job, and if there's a time where you could take a break and focus solely, even if it's a short period of time on your trading, where you could be locked in. That is a better pathway to success.
Two comments I'd like to add that for everybody. One is, just as Dr. Katz was saying, you may want to think about trying a different style of trading if it doesn't fit with your job. You may want to day trade. You may want to trade the open, which is exciting, but maybe that doesn't fit into your schedule. Maybe you should be looking at things like swing trading, which you can still make money at, and is still a good opportunity, and it leverages a lot of the skills, but you can do that at a sort of a different time and different pace. That may be something that works for you. The other thing that I wanted to add, again, to build on Dr. Katz's answer, is that, guys, there's a fallacy out there. I've heard it so many times, just to say, when people say, gosh, look, I'm making X money while I'm working. If I quit my job, I can turn it into 3X or 4X. I will promise you, it doesn't get easier by eliminating your job. You may think so because you've got more time and you can focus without distraction. However, unless you've got a ton of money, which I'm presuming you don't, or you wouldn't have the job in the first place, it actually gets harder because now all the pressure is on the trading. Whereas before you could trade with less feeling of risk, right? Because you've got the job, you've got that other security. Once you put more responsibility for success on the trading, which as we know is, can be hit or miss, and you only eat what you catch, it's a very different scenario. So be careful about the eagerness to quit a job to go into trading.
Well said.
So back up here because we had some good questions I wanted to get to. There was an interesting personal question. UVA was wondering, in your case, Dr. Katz, what's the best way to reduce stress? He was wondering what you did to reduce stress. Running, exercise, others,
so there are two things. Yes, listen, I see the question. I have been running. I have been a long distance runner for many, many years and an early morning runner. That has been a wonderful way for me to kind of reduce stress to start my day. And I think exercise is hugely important. So again, I think meditation, relaxation exercise, exercising of various kinds, physical activity of any kind, I think is a great stress reducer. But what I will say is that stress can come from many areas. So one of the things that I think is also very helpful is that if there are stressful things in your life that you have been avoidant, whether it's relationships or family issues or whatever, these need to be tended to off the trading day as well. So you could reduce stress, but there's also proactive ways of kind of dealing with it. There's day-to-day ways like exercising, but there's also kind of things in one's life that one needs to tend to in order to reduce stress as well. So I think it's a more holistic approach that I kind of recommend.
Yeah, agreed. Nona Runs was asking, I like the question, but I wonder if there are trader types that match up to sports. I would say I love sports analogies, and Dr. Katz and I both use them in different contexts. But if you try and get too specific, I find they break down. So I can't say that I can match sports to specific trader types. I think in general you can use characteristics. But yeah, I wouldn't go too specific in that, unless Dr. Katz, you've done that and you can match specific trading types to sports.
I can. I have worked with high-level traders who have played all different sports. I actually would say that there may be a little more of a tendency for individual sports, but now I'm thinking about examples of a guy who is a high-level baseball player, who is now a very successful trader. So I'm not sure I have enough data points. If I laid out all the former high-level athletes that I've worked with who are trading to see what sports they played, I'm not sure if there would be a specific pattern.
Yeah, agreed.
Although I would say there may be a little more individual sports.
Probably fair, yes. Bobby's asking any self-awareness books we'd recommend. I don't know what recommendations Dr. Katz have. I have to say, yesterday I just got in the mail this one, which somebody in the room recommended to me. And I only started it last night because I literally got it yesterday. But so far it's quite compelling. It's very much a straight talk book about shaping up your life and being honest with yourself about what you can and can't do and what you need to do to move forward. But I said I'm only you can say I'm only on chapter 3, so but it's very compelling so far.
I have to say, I am not a great reference point for kind of self-help books along that way. It's just because I spend a lot of my time in a week doing that. And so I've read some, but yeah, I actually would look to your community members who might find certain books helpful as it may be a better resource.
Yeah, we do have a list of books on our website. You can go there and look them up. So please do so. I don't have the link immediately handy, but don't be afraid to do that. I'll take a pause here because we have a lot of stuff going on this afternoon. There are 255 companies reporting after the close. So when it comes to earnings, we're going to have a busy, busy time. We're obviously not going to sit through all of them, but there's going to be a ton of earnings coming out after the close. And maybe I'll do one more question, and then we're going to talk about the member trade of the day because it's absolutely worth taking a look at. And we have another fantastic trade submitted by a member. Okay, so Zen, I'll move to maybe Zen's next here at 348. What was the best way to cope with the trade you've been watching but didn't jump into? TTDT, take the damn trade. It makes you as miserable as taking a loss. More so in some cases.
I think the key on that is just to learn from it, is to kind of document and journal, like, what was your hesitation? What was the anxiety or the concern? And really take note of that. It feels badly, but the key thing is to have a takeaway about, to kind of see if there are things that you can remedy so that the next time this presents itself, that you will act differently. Here's an interesting thing. Sometimes people feel like when they feel anxious or tentative that they can't act. Both things can exist. It's harder to do that, but you could feel a little uncomfortable and still jump into the trade. So I think, again, this is where, if the conviction level is there, if your process is in place and all the boxes are checked, don't allow the emotional discomfort to keep you from getting in. Then once you get into the trade, then the focus, a lot of that anxiety goes away. And then the focus is on how you execute and manage the trade.
Indeed. All right. So with that, as I said, we're only 2 minutes away from the close. Let's take a peek at the member trade of the day. And Dr. Katz, you can stay here with me if you want. That'd be great. So this was a trade that was made by one of our members in the room today, and it's a fantastic trade on SQ. So Charles is the one who made this trade and said, as you can see there, he was looking at, it was making an ascending triangle. He was looking for the break of the high of the day. What we like about this one, of course, is that just last night we had a webinar given by John about trading one style, and his style happens to be these high of day breaks. And it's funny because I was looking at that today and I was a little nervous about it, but I actually saw many opportunities that I didn't take advantage of. But in this case, Charles did take full advantage of it, got into the trade. Might be a little hard to see his arrows. It's a little small in the way I've pictured it here, but took some partials on the way up, showed some patience, added into the trade, and then partialed all the way up the chain here. So excellent trade management, and we even like Thor likes to call his Thor free roll to add into the trade when you saw an opportunity, and then hold it for further gains. So excellent trade, Charles, and well done. Well done. All right. So with that, it is time to start looking at earnings because we have a bunch of earnings that are coming forward. So we better get ready for that. And Dr. Katz, I should actually thank you for being here with us today. I appreciate you having joined and sharing your insight.
You're quite welcome, Peter. Okay. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks a lot. Take care. So guys, yeah, we are really close to earnings here, and things are about to get exciting. So I'm just waiting for. Let me fire this bad boy back up. All right, I just got to get my DAS platform back up so I can see what's going on. And all right, look at. I mean, earnings are just going to go crazy. We've got everything in here, and as you may have seen, I have some of the key ones that I was looking for listed here. So Uber, Dropbox, Groupon, the Trade Desk, TTD, TMUS, Yelp. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's like a ton of them here today. So it's going to be busy. Any that you guys are specifically looking for, either on YouTube or in the room, that I can keep an eye on? Dropbox and D-Dog, actually, I didn't put on my list. I wasn't focused on D-Dog. I saw it there. The old D-Dog. That old dirty dog. We'll see what we can do to keep an eye on some of these earnings. Let's put Uber up here. Now that the markets are closed, we keep an eye on Uber, because I think it's going to be an interesting one for sure. And then Dropbox. Sometimes Dropbox doesn't have much action after the close, but we'll see today what it brings. It's moving a little bit here. See, Brian is out there. You at the coffee shop, Brian? Did he make me a latte? I did ask for one. I got stopped out of my AMD trade a little earlier. All right, T-Mobile. T-Mobile is up. I see these are dropping. So TMUS, they beat top and bottom line, so that's good. Microsoft will face scrutiny. Deals face scrutiny in China. Well, no surprise. In fact, I think that TikTok acquisition may be interesting, maybe a challenge for Microsoft, because with the U.S. looking at banning TikTok in the Americas, you think China might have some retaliatory, dig into the acquisition and may just resist it for a bit. Resistance is futile. Did anyone outside of my region? I know a couple of people reached out to me who are in the region here. We had a big internet outage. I got lucky that my primary internet provider didn't go down, but there was a widespread outage. It affected a couple of cities here in Canada. I don't know what caused it, but I don't know if it was also limited to Canada or if it maybe affected sometimes it affects sort of the Northeast altogether. Anyone in the Northeast US have any impact? Nona runs, yeah, you had no internet and it was intermittent electricity. Yeah, well, I would imagine if you're on an island. It's funny because some areas got hit bad and some not at all. I know that in Florida, Thor was battening down the hatches waiting for it, and he had nothing. Then Sunday, I'm way up here in Ottawa, Canada, and we had tornado warnings. So that was just weird. I hear some background noise. That might be my buddy Brian.
TMUS? Team US?
TMUS is moving, yes.
Uber is trying to decide which way to go.
I know, Uber seems to be, well, it's heading up now. I'm looking for more earnings here. Caesars Entertainment, misses. Oh my goodness, huge miss on their revenue, miss on their earnings as well. We'll see. There might be a lot of stuff moving tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Brian, are you trading TMUS or you just?
I'm just noting it. I'm not trading it, no.
Okay.
I should be, maybe.
Yeah, LT, we were talking about W yesterday, how exactly as you said, it's gone up eightfold from like $25 to $300. It is insanity. Dropbox. Dropbox here, yeah, Dropbox has fallen off. CMG not moving too much. Dynavax not moving. The D-Dog, no volume. TMUS doesn't have huge volume, but it's moving a little bit. Uber still seems to be just jumping around here. Let's see. VXRT. Wow. VXRT, their numbers are very good numbers on VXRT. Dropbox is out, and they beat top and bottom line. So there's two good news. VXRT I didn't have. Let's add that one here because it's been one that we've watched in the past. Their numbers don't seem relative. Apparently last year their sales were 85,000. I guess that's why it's so low. Sorry, I just realized that was a K. 85,000. Now their sales were 523,000. They probably sold that in t-shirts just because people were watching it. But they lost a third the money they thought they were going to lose. Their loss is only 12 cents versus an estimated 39. So Dropbox just beat, like I said. Uber, oh, Uber's out now. Uber beat on revenue but missed on earnings. That's interesting.
There's nothing that I really like here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of APDN. Well, certainly, let's take a peek at APDN. What's that doing? It's dropping right now. Is it, I don't see any news on it. Very low volume here in APDN. Those last minute, there was 1,800 shares. 600 shares this minute.
I wouldn't bet on that one.
Yeah. I don't see anything that's, like you said, is particularly exciting here.
Yeah.
Well,
no, there's nothing really that's my eye.
As I said, going into a Friday, you'd think with so many earnings, it's just going to be like a crazy day tomorrow. But it is a Friday in the summer, and I'm, I could be completely wrong, but I am sort of thinking that we might have some exhaustion that's going to happen. Meaning that, I think we just may find the markets flat a little bit because we're going to have lots of earnings. But if there's no huge surprises, there won't be a lot of incentive to, sort of really start to move the markets or drive, people getting into something or out of something desperately either way. So I think it may be a quiet day.
I don't know if there's a lot of earnings on Friday, is there?
No, well,
certainly nothing after the.
Yeah, good question. Tomorrow, yeah, well, we've got a few. We've got 79 different companies that are going to be reporting before the open tomorrow.
Nothing looks too intriguing, but
79.
Clear Channel Outdoor, Dish. Canadian Solar,
yeah,
Brookfield Renewables. Yeah, there isn't really nothing Canadian. There's
Magna International. Yeah, there's nothing that we normally trade. So lots of things reporting, but again, none of the big movers that we tend to look at. So we'll see. We'll see. Well, look, I think with that, then we might as well just call it a day. If there's nothing exciting moving that we're going to take, you guys can follow those earnings yourself. and see how it
You-
goes.
You're saying it's not exciting hanging out with me?
No, I'm saying we can stop watching earnings. You and I can keep talking forever, Brian. I mean, it's always a thrill. It's always a thrill.
Always a thrill. A thrill a minute.
ZG, Raman is calling out. I see it starting to move here a little bit. Again, really low volume though. Just a few thousand shares being traded. Z and ZG, they're both Zillow Group, and yeah, they were in play a while back, but haven't watched them in a while. So yeah, I don't know that we're gonna get much exciting going on here this afternoon, other than talking with Brian, of course.
Yes, of course. So yeah, Uber had a big miss on revenue, but they're up, although they are fading.
I thought Uber was the other way, wasn't it? Hold on a sec. What was Uber? Uber, they beat on revenue, missed on earnings. Bookings declined. Huh. Wonder how Uber counts bookings. Anyways. Thank you again, John, for sharing the earnings release calendar. So if you guys want to see the main ones, the calendar's up there. Most of these we've been looking at here. So it's good. To those on YouTube, thank you for joining. We'll close it off for today. Don't forget to join tomorrow morning on YouTube for the opening bell with Carlos and Norm. And if you want to join us in the room, as always, we've got a discount code. We have extended it due to popular demand. The lifetime membership discount code, it's a one-time membership payment. The code is Rockies40, and you can get 40% off the one-time payment. So if you're interested in joining us, or if you just want to try it out, use Closing Bell 24 for a $24 one-week trial. So with that, give us a like on YouTube. We'd appreciate that, and have a fantastic evening.